A signal from an unknown world. A signal that carried one message. We have found them. Those words were the beginning of a new mystery. The war with the void had ended, but humanity quickly realized that the universe was not peaceful. They had survived the greatest threat in history, but now something else had found them, something that had been searching for them for a very long time. Captain Ethan Cole stood inside the archive, staring at the message on the ancient screen. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke, because everyone understood the meaning behind those words. They were not a warning. They were not a threat. They were a discovery. Someone had been looking for humanity. Dr. Mitchell slowly walked closer to the screen. "Who sent this?" she asked. The Origin looked at the signal with an expression nobody had ever seen before. Not fear, not confusion, recognition. Ethan noticed immediately. "You know them." The Origin remained silent. That silence was the answer. Alaron stepped forward. "Tell us the truth." The ancient being looked toward the stars beyond Earth. "They are the reason the archive existed." Everyone became silent. The Origin continued. "Before the architects, before the Sentinels, before the Dragon Empire, there was another civilization. A civilization that watched everything. A civilization that never interfered. Until now." Ethan looked at the message again. "We have found them." He finally understood. The message was not about the archive. It was about humanity. But why? Why had an unknown civilization searched for humans across the galaxy? The archive suddenly activated. A new recording appeared. This time it was different. The message was not from the architects. It was older, much older. A figure appeared on the screen. A human. Everyone froze, because the person on the recording was wearing the same guardian symbol that Ethan carried. The ancient human looked directly at the camera. "If you are watching this, then the guardian has returned." Ethan felt his heart stop for a moment. The voice continued. "You must understand one thing. Humanity was never alone. The recording showed thousands of worlds, different species, different civilizations, all connected by one ancient network. A network created long before humans even reached space." Dr. Mitchell looked shocked. "That is impossible." The Origin answered. "No, it was hidden." The recording continued. "The universe has a forgotten history. There were civilizations that protected life without ruling it. They were called the Watchers." The name appeared across the archive. The Watchers. Ethan looked at the Origin. "Are they the ones who sent the signal?" The Origin nodded. "Yes." "And why did they find us now?" The answer came slowly. "Because something else has returned." The entire archive went dark. A new image appeared. A planet that should not exist. A place that had disappeared millions of years ago. The home of the Watchers. Then another message appeared. "They are coming." The team looked confused. "Who is coming?" The Origin looked toward the darkness outside the archive. The ones were never defeated. For the first time since the beginning of the journey, even Ethan felt something different. The void was gone. The war was over. But the universe had just revealed a much bigger truth. The real story had only started. Outside Earth, the Dragon Empire detected the same signal. Varkin watched the message carefully. Kaeldar became silent, because the dragons knew the name. A name they had erased from their own history. The Watchers, the oldest civilization, the first protectors, and the only beings who knew why humanity truly existed. The Dragon Command Fortress immediately changed direction. For the first time, the dragons were not moving toward Earth. They were moving with Earth, because they knew what was coming next, and it was something even the Dragon Empire could not face alone. The Dragon Command Fortress moved through space at maximum speed. For the first time in thousands of years, the Dragon Empire was not chasing power. They were moving toward an unknown future with uncertainty. The same dragons that once believed they controlled the galaxy were now searching for answers. Captain Ethan Cole watched the signal data inside the archive. The message from the Watchers was still active. Every few seconds, new information appeared. Locations, ancient coordinates, forgotten worlds that had disappeared from every known map. Dr. Mitchell studied the information carefully. These places, they existed before recorded history. The origin nodded. Because history was rewritten. Everyone looked at him. The origin continued. The strongest civilizations did not disappear because they lost wars. They disappeared because they discovered something they were not ready to understand. Ethan looked at the ancient symbols. The Watchers know this truth. Yes, the origin replied, and they have been protecting it. Suddenly, the archive detected another signal. This time it was different. It was not from the Watchers. It was coming from somewhere closer, much closer. A warning appeared. Unknown object approaching. Everyone became alert. The Sentinel systems activated. The humans prepared their weapons. But Ethan noticed something strange. The signal was not hostile. It was familiar. The same energy pattern as the Guardian mark. Alaron looked at Ethan. Someone else carries the same connection. Before anyone could answer, a small spacecraft appeared near Earth. It was ancient, older than any human technology, older than the Dragon Empire, older than the Sentinel fleets. The ship moved toward the archive without resistance. The massive doors opened automatically. Everyone waited. A figure stepped out. A human, but not like any human they had ever seen. The person looked at Ethan, and the first words changed everything. You finally returned. The room became silent. Ethan stepped forward. Returned? The stranger looked at the Guardian symbol on Ethan's hand. You don't remember. Ethan felt confused. Remember what? The stranger answered. The first journey. The archive immediately reacted. Millions of images appeared. A young humanity. A different Earth. A mission into the unknown. And a group of humans leaving their planet thousands of years before anyone knew they existed. Dr. Mitchell stared at the images. This cannot be real. The stranger looked at her. It is. Your history did not begin on Earth. It began among the stars. Everyone was shocked. Humanity had always believed it was discovering the galaxy, but the truth was different. Humanity had already been part of the galaxy. They had simply forgotten. Ethan looked at the stranger. Who are you? The stranger remained silent for a moment, then answered, I am the last Watcher. The name changed everything. The Watchers were not aliens watching humanity. They were connected to humanity. They were the ones who protected the original truth. The last Watcher looked toward the archive. The signal was not sent to invite you. It was sent to warn you. Ethan's expression changed. Warn us about what? The Watcher looked toward the stars. The Creator was not the only one that awakened. A cold silence filled the chamber. The origin slowly turned. Because he understood. Another ancient force had returned. Something that even the Creator feared. The Watcher continued. The universe has two sides. Creation and the force that wants to erase it. The archive started showing a new symbol. A symbol nobody had seen before. Not the void. Not the Creator. Something different. A name appeared. The first enemy. Outside Earth, the stars began disappearing again. But this time, the darkness was not coming from the void. It was something new, something older, something that had been waiting for humanity to return. And now, it had found them. It had found them. Those words echoed to the minds of everyone inside the archive. The first enemy was no longer a forgotten legend. It was no longer a story from ancient civilizations. It was real and had been waiting for humanity to return. Captain Ethan Cole looked at the new symbol appearing across the archive. It was unlike anything they had seen before. The energy was older than the void, older than the Creator's message, older than every civilization that had ever existed. The last Watcher stepped closer to the symbol. His expression became serious. This is why we search for you. Ethan looked at him. You search for humanity because of this? The Watcher nodded. Because only humanity can open the final path. Everyone became silent. Dr. Mitchell looked confused. Why humanity? What makes us different? The Watcher looked at Earth through the archive walls. Because humanity was the first civilization to reject the path of control. Ethan remembered everything they had discovered. The fallen civilizations, the destroyed worlds, the endless wars created by the desire for power. But there was still one question. What happened to the first humans who left Earth? The Watcher looked at the ancient recordings. They became the Guardians. The answer shocked everyone. Humanity was not just connected to the Guardians. Humanity created them. Millions of years ago, the first humans traveled beyond their world and discovered the truth about the universe. They learned about balance. They learned about creation. They learned about the dangers of controlling forces they did not understand. But then they discovered the first enemy, a force that existed before civilizations, a force that did not want to rule, a force that wanted everything to disappear. The archive displayed ancient images, worlds turning silent, stars losing their light, civilizations disappearing without a battle. The first enemy did not conquer. It erased. Alaron watched the images carefully. The void was different. The Watcher nodded. The void destroyed because it was created from conflict. But the first enemy destroys because it believes existence itself is a mistake. The room became completely silent. This was not another war. This was a fight for the right of life to exist. Suddenly, the archive detected movement. The unknown signal was getting closer, not from another galaxy, not from deep space, from inside the universe itself. A crack appeared in space near Earth. Everyone watched as something began passing through. No ship, no army, only a shadow, a presence. The dragon fleets immediately moved into defensive positions. The Sentinel systems activated. Humanity prepared for another impossible battle. But Ethan noticed something strange. The first enemy was not attacking. It was watching, studying, waiting. The Watcher looked at Ethan. It is trying to understand you. Ethan frowned. Understand us? The Watcher nodded. Because you are the first thing it cannot predict. The Guardian symbol on Ethan's hand started glowing. The archive reacted. A final message appeared. The final Guardian has arrived. Everyone looked at Ethan. But Ethan knew something was wrong. The message was not saying he was the final Guardian. It was saying something else had arrived. Something beyond him. Something connected to the ancient Guardians. The archive opened a hidden chamber beneath them. Inside was a single object, a small human artifact, a simple symbol carved into metal. Dr. Mitchell picked it up carefully. This is from Earth. The Watcher looked at it. Yes, from the first Earth. Ethan stared at the object, because carved into it was a message written by the first humans who left their planet. If we fail, humanity must remember one thing. The universe is not protected by the strongest. It is protected by those who choose to protect others. The lights inside the archive changed. The first enemy moved closer, and for the first time, humanity understood the real purpose of the Guardian, not to win the final war, but to decide what kind of universe would exist after it. Humanity understood the real purpose of the Guardian. It was never about holding the strongest weapon in the universe. It was never about becoming the most powerful civilization. The Guardian existed for one reason only, to make the choice that others were unable to make. Captain Ethan Cole looked at the ancient human artifact in his hand, a simple symbol created by the first humans who traveled beyond Earth. It carried no advanced technology, no hidden weapon, no impossible power. But somehow, it survived millions of years. The Watcher looked at Ethan. The first Guardians left this message because they knew one day humanity would face the same decision. Ethan looked at the symbol. What decision? The Watcher answered, whether to become the thing you fear or the thing you were created to protect. The words remained inside Ethan's mind. Outside the archive, the first enemy continued approaching. The darkness around it was spreading slowly, covering distant stars. But unlike the void, there was no anger, no emotion, no desire, only one purpose: erase. The Dragon Empire prepared for battle, but Kaeldar knew something was different. This enemy cannot be fought like the others. Varkin looked at him. Then how do we fight it? Kaeldar looked toward Earth. We don't. The answer surprised everyone. We understand it. Inside the archive, the final records of the first Guardians began playing. Ethan watched as ancient humans stood before the same enemy thousands of years ago. They had armies. They had technology. They had power. But they failed because they believed victory meant destroying their enemy. They never understood that some battles were not won by defeating something. They were won by changing what the battle meant. The recording showed the final guardian of the ancient era, a human standing alone before the first enemy. And the guardian made the same choice Ethan was now facing. He refused power. He refused control. He chose protection. The recording ended. The Watcher looked at Ethan. Now you know why the first enemy fears humanity. Ethan looked confused. Because we can defeat it? The Watcher shook his head. No, because you can choose something different. Suddenly, the entire archive began shaking. The first enemy had reached Earth. Every system activated. Every warning appeared. The ancient structure that had survived millions of years was now facing its final test. The massive presence appeared above the planet. Every creature across Earth looked toward the sky. Humans, dragons, sentinels, all watching the same impossible sight. The first enemy had arrived. But then something unexpected happened. It did not attack. It sent a message. A single message. Return the guardian. Everyone became silent. Ethan stepped forward. Why? The answer appeared. Because it was never yours. The word shocked everyone. The guardian power. The archive. The ancient mission. Everything. Maybe it was never created for humanity. Maybe humanity was only protecting something that belonged to someone else. The Watcher looked worried. Because even he did not know the answer. Then the first enemy revealed the truth. A truth hidden for millions of years. The Guardian was not a human creation. It was created before humans existed. And the first humans did not discover it. They inherited it. Ethan looked at the glowing symbol. For the first time, he questioned everything. If the Guardian did not belong to humanity, then why was humanity chosen? The archive suddenly opened one final hidden section. A message appeared. Origin of the Guardian. The room went silent. The truth was finally about to be revealed. And whatever was inside that message would change everything humanity believed about itself. The message appeared across the archive. Origin of the Guardian. For millions of years, this truth had remained hidden. Civilizations searched for it. Empires fought for it. Entire worlds disappeared trying to understand it. But now, inside the ancient archive, humanity was finally about to discover where the Guardian truly came from. The walls of the chamber changed. The ancient symbols disappeared, and a new vision appeared in front of everyone. A universe before civilizations, before the Dragon Empire, before the Sentinels, before humanity. A time when the first stars were still young. The Watcher looked at the vision with silence, because even he had never seen the complete truth. The Origin stepped forward. This is the beginning. Ethan watched carefully as the vision continued. A force appeared in the center of the universe. Not a creature, not a machine. Something beyond understanding. A balance. A connection between creation and existence. The Guardian was born from that balance. It was not created to control life. It was created to protect the possibility of life. But as time passed, civilizations discovered its existence. They wanted to use it. They wanted its power. And every civilization that tried control, it eventually destroyed itself. Dr. Mitchell looked shocked. Then the Guardian was never a weapon. The Origin nodded. It was always responsibility. The vision changed again. Millions of years passed. Different species found pieces of the Guardian knowledge. Some became protectors. Others became conquerors. Some created peace. Others created wars. The same power created different outcomes depending on the choices of those who held it. Ethan looked down at the symbol on his hand. He finally understood. The Guardian did not choose the strongest person. It chose the person who could carry the responsibility without being consumed by power. Suddenly, the first enemy sent another message. You still do not understand. The entire archive became silent. The voice continued. The Guardian failed before. The universe always returns to the same ending. Creation rises. Power corrupts. Everything disappears. The darkness around Earth became stronger. The first enemy showed humanity visions of the future. A future where humans became like the civilizations before them. A future where Earth controlled the galaxy. A future where the Guardian became a tool of domination. Ethan watched the images, and for a moment, he saw the possibility. He saw how easy it would be. With the Guardian power, humanity could end every war, force every enemy to surrender, create a perfect order. But then he remembered something. A perfect universe without choice was not peace. It was control. And control was the reason every civilization failed. Ethan looked toward the first enemy. You think the problem is life itself. The darkness remains silent. But you are wrong. The problem was never life. The problem was the choices we made. The Guardian symbol became brighter. The archive reacted. For the first time, the first enemy moved backward, not because of power, because of understanding. The Watcher looked at Ethan. You found the answer. Ethan looked confused. What answer? The Watcher smiled. The one every Guardian before you failed to find. The archive opened completely. A hidden message from the first Guardians appeared. If you have reached this moment, remember, do not defeat the darkness by becoming stronger than it. Defeat it by proving that darkness is not the only choice. The message ended. Outside Earth, the first enemy became still. Then something unexpected happened. The darkness started changing, not disappearing, changing, because for the first time in millions of years, the first enemy questioned itself. And that was something no civilization had ever achieved before. But then, a new signal appeared. Not from the first enemy, not from the Watchers, not from the archive. From somewhere beyond the known universe, a message appeared. The final observer has awakened, and everyone understood. The Guardian's true story was not ending. It was just reaching the next stage. The final observer has awakened. Those words created a silence across the universe. Even the first enemy stopped moving. For millions of years, nothing had been able to surprise it. It had watched civilizations rise and fall. It had seen countless worlds disappear. But now, something beyond its understanding had appeared. Inside the archive, every system activated at the same time. Ancient symbols covered the walls. The Guardian energy started changing. Ethan looked at the screens as a new location appeared. A place beyond the edge of the known universe. A place that even the Watchers never reached. The last Watcher looked at the coordinates, and his expression changed. What is it? Ethan asked. The Watcher slowly answered. The place where everything began. Nobody spoke. The origin looked toward the stars. The first source. Dr. Mitchell looked confused. You mean the Creator? The origin shook his head. No, the Creator was only a part of the beginning. The answer shocked everyone. There was something older, something before the Creator. Something that even ancient civilizations could not understand. The archive revealed a new message. The first observer. The name appeared. The first observer. The being that witnessed the birth of the universe. The one that watched every civilization. The one that knew every choice before it happened. Ethan looked at the first enemy. Does it know about this? The Watcher looked toward the darkness. Yes, that is why it came. Suddenly, the first enemy sent a message. For the first time, its voice sounded different. Not powerful, not certain, concerned. The observer must not awaken. Everyone became silent because they understood. Even the first enemy was afraid of something. The darkness around Earth started changing. The first enemy moved closer. But this time it was not coming to erase humanity. It was coming to stop something else. The archive showed another vision. A future where the first observer awakened. A future where every secret of existence was revealed. Every truth, every origin, every hidden force. But there was a danger. Some truths were never meant to be controlled. The Watcher looked at Ethan. This is why the Guardian exists. Ethan understood. The Guardian was never created to defeat enemies. It existed to decide what knowledge should be protected. The greatest danger in the universe was not darkness. It was knowing everything and believing you had the right to control it. Outside Earth, the Dragon Empire and Sentinel fleets noticed a change. Varkin looked at the approaching energy. What is happening? Kaeldar answered quietly. The oldest battle is beginning. The dragons prepared. The Sentinels prepared. But this time, everyone knew weapons would not decide the outcome. Inside the archive, Ethan stepped toward the final chamber. The door opened. A single message appeared. Only the Guardian may enter. Ethan walked inside alone. The chamber was unlike anything he had seen before. No machines, no weapons, only a mirror showing not his face, but every possible version of himself. A version who chose power, a version who became a ruler, a version who failed, a version who saved everyone. The Guardian was showing him the final choice, not between good and evil, between who he was and who he could become. Then a voice appeared, not from the archive, not from the creator, from the first observer. Humanity has reached the final question. Ethan looked around. What question? The voice answered. If you could control everything, would you still choose to protect everyone? Ethan looked at the mirror. The answer was simple. Power was easy. Control was easy. But protection required sacrifice. And that was what separated guardians from rulers. Ethan placed his hand on the Guardian symbol. I choose to protect. The entire universe reacted. The archive opened its final secret. The first observer awakened. And every civilization received the same message. The Guardian has chosen. But then another message appeared. A message that changed everything. The last war was never against the enemy. IT was against the choice. The stars went silent because the universe was about to discover the final truth. The universe was about to discover the final truth. The moment those words appeared, the entire structure of reality seemed to hesitate, as if existence itself was unsure whether this truth should be revealed or not. Inside the archive, Ethan stood still with his hand on the Guardian symbol, feeling something shift deep within him, not outside, but inside consciousness itself. The first observer's presence expanded across the universe. It was not a being in a physical sense. It was awareness. It was everything that had ever been seen, recorded, or forgotten. And now, for the first time, it was responding. The watcher looked terrified for the first time. His voice broke slightly. If the observer fully awakens, nothing will remain unchanged. Not civilizations. Not time. Not choice itself. Dr. Mitchell stepped back. You mean it will destroy everything? The watcher answered slowly. No, it will reveal everything. That was worse, because destruction ends pain. But truth removes illusion. And some realities cannot survive full truth. Outside Earth, the first enemy stopped completely. The darkness that once covered stars began to pull inward, not retreating, but collapsing into itself. It was reacting to something deeper than fear now. It was reacting to origin. Varkin watched his fleet lose formation for a moment. Why are they stopping? Kael'thar's voice was quiet. Because they can feel it too. The observer is not far anymore. Inside the archive, Ethan suddenly saw something no one else could see. A second layer beneath reality. A structure beneath existence. Like the universe was a thin surface covering something infinite underneath. And beneath that surface, something was opening its eye. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. The first observer had begun to wake. Ethan clenched his hand. If it wakes up, what happens to us? The origin finally spoke, his voice lower than before. You will understand everything. Ethan turned sharply. That is not an answer. The origin looked at him. That is the only answer left. The archive began to break its own limits. Time inside the chamber stopped behaving normally. Moments overlapped. Past and future appeared in the same space. Ethan saw humanity not as it was, but as it always had been across different possibilities. Some versions collapsed into war. Some evolved into peace. Some never reached the stars. Some became something beyond recognition. And at the center of all of them was the Guardian symbol. Not as a weapon, not as a system, but as a decision repeated across timelines. Then the first observer spoke directly into every mind in existence. Not words that were heard, words that were understood. All choices are now visible. Instantly, every civilization felt it. Every dragon, every sentinel, every human across Earth froze as their entire history became visible at once. Not just what they did, but why they did it. Every fear, every hope, every mistake, every intention. There was no hiding anymore. And in that moment, something unexpected happened. The first enemy began to dissolve. Not because it was defeated, because it was understood. It was not destruction. It was accumulation of every erased possibility that no civilization ever accepted. The Watcher whispered, "It was never an enemy." Ethan finished the sentence without realizing it. It was a result of refusal. The Observer continued revealing truth. When choices are ignored, they do not disappear. They become shadows. These shadows formed what you call the first enemy. Silence spread through everything. Even the dragons stopped moving. Even the Sentinels lowered their weapons. The universe was not at war anymore. It was being understood. And understanding changed everything. The first enemy was gone now, not destroyed, but resolved. But the Observer was still awakening, and its full presence had not yet been revealed. Ethan felt it clearly now. This was not the end of a war. This was the end of ignorance itself. The Guardian symbol in his hand stopped glowing aggressively and instead stabilized like it had finally found balance. The Origin looked at him one last time. "You have done what no Guardian before you could." Ethan did not feel powerful. He felt small. What happens now? The Archive answered for the first time without hesitation. Now the Observer finishes waking. The light inside the chamber expanded infinitely, and for a brief moment, every civilization across existence saw the same thing. Not a god, not a weapon, not a destroyer, just the full truth of existence beginning to open its eyes. And as reality itself prepared for what comes next, one thing became clear across all timelines. The story of the Guardian was never about survival. It was about what happens when the universe finally understands itself.